Yo guys, what's going on? LifeOfRio here, and I'm bringing you guys my Volt versus Frost video. Now guys, the thing about this is that I'm going to be starting a versus series on my channel, and I think versus series are really cool, but mine are going to have a little bit of a twist to it. You guys know I'm mainly an endurance runner, and just basically overall just for straight endgame. So this is going to be with knowledge of endgame for how things will pan out for you with your team for when you get up to really high levels, for how you basically do things and how you're going to try to accomplish things and tackle these feats for what, you know, basically pushes their self at you in endgame. Now with Volt, a lot of people always say, Rio, whenever I see you do a long run with a team or whatever you're doing, you always have a Volt with you. Now, it's very simple to why I always have a Volt with me. One, I love Volt myself. I am a super huge Volt fan. I think Volt is amazing. Not to say that Frost isn't, but I'll go into a breakdown on how this even synergizes so better into endgame. Now, each frame have their desired weaknesses. Each frame has their weaknesses on being a defensive frame. But one thing I want you guys to take from this and understand is that with being one of these two frames and you're doing an endurance run, you're doing an endgame run, you are not going to be the main damage dealer. Do not focus on being primarily there for damage. Your entire setup and your entire niche of being in this run is to be, when the rounds start getting crazy, when the times start getting high, is to be the defensive frame. You're there to protect the squishy frames that can provide the CC and that can the DPSs that can provide all the damage that goes out. So that's your main role. So please understand the role of the frame that you're playing. So if you're playing Volt, one thing that I would say to understand is that shield placement is so key and so important to me. Like when I play Volt, I am so like to the point on how I'm gonna place my shields. You have to know where the enemy is spawning from because your shield doesn't cover the entire area. So knowing on how to place your shields and watching your time of being very efficient on things like that is very important. Also with playing Volt 4 endgame, since you're the main defensive user, know when to cast your fourth ability. I know a lot of people who play Volt whenever they're doing long runs or whatever the case is, they just go out there and they cast their fourth. You should never cast your fourth ability at all times. If you want to be a really good Volt player and knowing when to cast your fourth, that's really important. So I would explain to you guys why. If you have a lot of range on your Volt and you cast your fourth ability like every 2 seconds or every 5 seconds, you're slowing down enemy spawn. The main thing that you want to do is that you want to uphold the enemies running towards you. And so you want to keep the enemies coming towards you and keep that flow going very well. So if you keep throwing out your fourth, you're slowing them down, because when it comes up to crunch time, when things are getting really crazy and you need those mini life support RNGs to drop, the enemies are so locked down in greater distances that it takes them a long time to get to you, and so they get bunched up. So Volt's fourth is not a bad idea, it's a great idea, but knowing when to throw it out makes it even more important, because you just want to throw it out. Let's say when someone gets down, they're pressuring too hard, you want to slow them down a little bit to get your team back on track. That's when you're going to do it. Now, your main thing that you're going to be doing is your shield. Your shield is going to provide extra damage for the team and provide an amazing protection. So bombard rockets, nullifiers, Lanka shots, no matter what it is, it completely stops it. Volt's shield does not have any, is not affected by damage at all. It's just affected by duration. And that's one of the reasons to why I love it so much. Another thing on being a Volt player is that if you're doing a very long endurance run, what you have to focus on is that I would like for Volt players to carry a weapon, like at least an AoE weapon, to where they can focus and shoot down the plasma grenades that are thrown by crewmen. So plasma grenades are thrown by crewmen, and those can go over Volt shield or in Volt shield. And so what you can do is that ever since the a recent update ago, you can shoot plasma grenades on the floor and you can take care of all of that. So that is your main thing when you're a Volt player, is to always keep shields up. You're going to use your first ability just to chain lock up to 5 enemies per second. You can do that. And if you're using Volt, I would very much encourage most people to run the generic focus school, because you're going to be spamming energy so much. You're going to throw your fourth ability out whenever you can. Volt excels in survival, and that's where I'm always using a Volt player, is in survival. Now in mobile defenses and things like that, yes, Volt can work, but Frost will definitely be a better pick. Now if you're doing defenses, obviously you know that Frost is going to be the better pick for defenses. So it depends on where you know that your endurance run is going to be taking place. Now with Frost, Frost is a fantastic frame all around. Frost does a lot of great things. Now another thing that I wanted to point out to you guys is this. With Frost's abilities, Frost has fantastic synergy with his abilities. Now, as you guys can pay attention to the globe, the damage that I take or whatever the case is, this is going to be a 4-second invincibility globe. Now, the thing about Frost is, guys, a strength build is not my favorite thing with Frost. I'm not here to tell you how to build. I'm just here to give you a general idea on how things will work out and pan out for you. A strength build is not as effective, I would say, when you're doing endurance runs. I've tried multiple builds with Frost from doing those long runs, and most of the people that play the game with me and do these crazy long runs will definitely tell you that a strength build Frost is not really what you would like. Now, a lot of people would probably say that, well, you can use his fort augment and then strip armor. That is not going to be a thing for you later on in high waves. Remember, you're not there to provide damage or do all of that extra stuff. You're just there to do what you can. If you can get kills, that'll be awesome. Most of your kills are going to come from the early waves from when the mission started anyway, so you're going to try to get as much kills within that time period. But if you're going to be using Frost, and this also goes for Volt, while you're protecting everyone, I would definitely say bring some weapons that has a lot of CC to where you can provide radiation, you can provide viral procs, whatever the case is, and help out your damage dealers. That's going to be your main thing. Your primary focus is to defend the team, but also provide some kind of assistance to where you can help out. Frost with a Torrid, with an Ice Wave, with his Ice Wave augment is fantastic, and that's how I run Frost, which is high duration, high efficiency, and with a nice amount of range. Now, when it comes to running Void, Volt is definitely going to be the better pick if you're doing survival, because Frost has too many negatives compared to Volt's negatives when it comes to running Void. Now, Frost negatives are the nullifiers touching his bubble, which can just takes away his entire bubble. The nullifiers from a distance is also a great threat towards Frost, because the Lanka has so much punch through that they can shoot through his globe without having to shoot the globe down. It has punch through to go through it, to where you can, kill your teammates in the globe, and you can also take down the Frost. So if that situation occurs to where Frost gets taken down at really high levels, the rest of the team is really in a bad situation. Now with this one, as I'm showing you guys the Zenny Star, if you don't have the Zenny Star, that's fine. This is just a perk to where Frost does really well, to where he can help out the team with the Zenny Star. Now if you don't have the Zenny Star, I would definitely say bring a throwing melee weapon like the Orpheus. I would definitely say, or the Glaive, something that can throw out there, because you will not be able to leave your shield, your globe, because that's going to be the main thing that you're going to stay up and protect. I would also say bring an AoE weapon, to where you can help out the team and take down nullifier bubbles. Always bring a weapon that can take out nullifier bubbles, since that's going to be your main objective of being the defender. You're going to protect the team. Now here's another key thing that I wanted to point out now that I just did that. Frost's fourth ability. You do not throw out Frost's fourth ability consistently. If you want to be a good Frost player, you want to help your team make it, throwing out Frost's fourth ability is going to basically hurt your team way more in the long run, because if you completely freeze those enemies with your fourth ability, what's going to happen is that your team is now going to take longer to kill those enemies. Banshee's sonar, let's say Saren's viral procs, all of that will mainly anything that's status effect. Mainly all your status effect is not going to be doing any damage towards the enemy, and so you're going to slow down your DPS for your teammates. So that's another thing that you guys want to focus on. The main thing that I would primarily say focus on if you're doing endurance runs with Frost is to focus on doing your 2 and doing your 3, which is your Ice Wave. I would definitely say run the augment for that. You do not really need the chilling globe. Frost is going to excel versus infested. Volt is not really too much going to excel during infested, and then that's just basically how you go about it. Now Frost is not going to be as good in the Void. He is going to be very terrible also versus Corpus. So Volt is going to excel in the Void versus Corpus, and Volt also excelled versus Grenier, and Frost is still also well versus Grenier. But if you guys enjoyed the video, please be sure to hit a thumbs up. Let me know the frames that you would like to see versus each other in the comment section, and I will catch you guys later on the next Warframe video.